Hey Achievers, this is Maya, founder of Healthy High Achievers. Join our global community and create healthier routines to avoid burnout and feel more calm and healthy. Let's get to it. Hey Achievers, welcome to this monthly expert interview. I'm so excited today. We're talking to Declan Treanor, a really good friend of mine. I was gonna say we saw each other in Belgium, but I guess did we ever see each other, Declan?
We had to virtually meet in Belgium. So we were both in Belgium, and our friend Grania introduced the two of us because we're very interested in this area of healthy high achievement. So our first meeting was actually via Zoom. So we haven't met in person yet. We'll have to make that happen.
It feels like we have, though. It's like we get so used to the Zoom meetings during lockdown that I don't even know who I saw in person and who I didn't, really.
I know, and I think that's a testament probably from my side to you. I don't know, just in terms of, because I wouldn't say I've striked, say, a working relationship and a friendship with people via Zoom so much, but I've found that we have common interests, and it's just really nice to chat to you about everything healthy high achievement and just how you're getting on over in Cusco and everything. And it's always good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were in Belgium talking virtually, and you're in Ireland right now, and I'm in Peru. So here we are in the world of Zoom again. And I'm so excited to be interviewing you today because, you know so much about how to take care of the body when you're super busy. I know you're a personal trainer as well as a stress coach, and you help people, improve their body, mind, and soul. I love your podcast as well. What's the name? Mind, Body, Soul podcast, right?
Yeah, Mind, Body, Soul podcast. So for me, it was always about holistic health, because as you'll know from your journey, is health doesn't just come from one of these four elements, one of either working out, getting your nutrition right, being spiritual and focusing on the soul, or, practicing meditation. It's not just one of these elements. I've seen people in unbelievable physical shape who are really struggling mentally. And I mean, we even saw that at the most recent Olympics, people dropping out of events for mental health reasons. And, the more this comes to the fore and the more that it's talked about, I think that the better for all of us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that just reminds me of something my brother told me when I was 15 and I was struggling with fibromyalgia, extreme fatigue, my health issues. And I didn't know about health coaching. I didn't know about this holistic health. So all I could do was go to a psychotherapist to help me accept my body's limits and listen to my body. And then it was difficult for me to accept that I was going to a psychotherapist, as many people probably has gone through that. And then my brother said, it's so absurd that we think it's so normal to go to a personal trainer to work on our body's physical health, or to go to a doctor. But then for the mind and the soul, it was still something absurd. That's like 12 years back. It was still something that you just don't do, going to a psychotherapist, right? To work on your mental health.
Yeah, there's a bit of stigma around that, and particularly I do work with corporates, and it's not a word that mental health is still a little bit stigmatized. Now it's getting a lot better, which is great. But in the workplace in particular, there seems to be a hesitancy around that word. Or burnout, because people don't want to be seen to not be able to cope. And, I think that it's getting a lot more open, which is great. Look, I've been to a therapist myself. I'm currently taking, call it a mood enhancer or an antidepressant. But again, it's due to this period of my life that it's actually helping me to think clearly. And I'm also pairing this then with things that help my mental health, like decluttering the amount of responsibility I'm taking on. So, this podcast is one of my two main commitments this week, whereas before I had maybe 20 to 25 main commitments. And I just think we need to remove the stigma around these things. I remember I was struggling, and my mum said to me, you talked about going to see a therapist there and feeling maybe that, that bit of stigma, maybe that you didn't want to go there. Or again, when I was taking that medication, I remember talking to my mother, and she said, you're seeing this as some kind of defeat. It's not that. It's just something that can help you at this period of time. And that really changed my mindset on it. And as a result, I am thinking clearer. I'm feeling a lot better this last couple of months. And I've taken serious strides in terms of my life. And that's not to say that I won't have down periods again or whatever else, but I think I do think it's vitally important that we see the place that certain medications have when we pair it with also then making efforts with things like cognitive behavioral therapy. And like a lot of the time with therapy, it can be backwards searching. So we could be looking for, some reason why we're struggling, something to do with our childhood. And I think that's more of a Freudian approach to it. And it has its place, certainly. And then cognitive behavioral therapy is looking more at the thought process and how certain thoughts come into our mind and how we then deal with that. So I think we certainly need to get a balance between, because sometimes I think we can be too backwards looking for reasons. And sometimes that's it's sort of an endless hole sometimes, and we may never get a conclusion from that. So then I do think there's definitely value in looking at how we respond to thinking patterns in the now, and how we create meaning in the now in terms of our life, in terms of putting energy into the right things, and how you can feel better as a result of that. And that's what really resonates with me about the work that you do, Maya. You talk a lot about giving your mind a break, about clearing your calendar, about being a healthy high achiever. And you were the first person who I heard use that terminology. And I've seen so many high achievers achieve highly, but at the expense of overall health. And, that's what I love about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that mental pushing all the time and trying to be strong and trying to just fit everything into your life and having 20-50 responsibilities, like you say, and then really not admitting that you might need support, you might need help, you might need to declutter, simplify your life, or you might end up in that burnout, like you said. And luckily this is kind of getting a bit more normalized. The other movement that I see there is that also people start focusing a lot on the gratitude part and starting to meditate and starting to kind of, the mental soul part gets more attention. And as that part gets more attention, the physical movement part is kind of like, oh, but I'm so busy and I'm already meditating and feeling gratitude, and I don't have time to do sports. And I'm definitely one of those people where if I work a lot on my mindset and journaling, and I love that stuff, but I'm like, hey, oh, wait a minute. When was the last time I really had a good sweat? Or when was the last time so sometimes I just take a box, I put it on my desk, and I'm just working while standing up to try to not sit down too much, But that's what I really want my healthy high achievers to walk away with that today. Is we talk a lot about decluttering. Indeed, I have a lot of focus on cleaning out your schedule, but what's lacking there is I haven't talked to my audience yet about how can you really implement those mini moments of movement, because also that we know influences your mood, makes you feel better, and your body just needs it to detoxify and for all kinds of functions.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you hear about something like the runner's high. It's like this idea that, you're getting these endorphins that you're kind of creating, you're multiplying them, and it's going to help you to feel better. Now, we don't always enjoy it exactly there and then. Sometimes it's tough. But let me talk to your listeners about, first of all, what I think the beauty of exercise is and why I became a personal trainer. So from a young age, I've been very into it, right? And I understand that not everybody is, or not everyone will share that same passion for exercise that I do. Their passions may lie elsewhere. Now, it just so happens that exercise, and I'm not going to go into, why exercise is so important. We know that that's well publicized, but what I am going to go into is how to make it a habit. And also, if you don't enjoy it, how to make it enjoyable or reasonably enjoyable for yourself. So I think, first of all, it is to find what it is that you enjoy. So you mentioned before we came on air, you mentioned salsa. And so for some people, exercise and getting a sweat on comes from music and dancing. And that's perfect, because for me
it does.
Yeah, so I think a big thing is that's movement. So I would probably more look at exercise in the sphere of movement. So how can we create movement in our lives? So for some people, it'll be enrolling in a salsa class. They'll find that more enjoyable than going and joining a gym. Where I live here in Dublin, I'm by the coast, and you have people who swear by a sea swim every day. So they'll go in, rain, hail or shine, they'll go into the sea because they just feel that it has that rejuvenating quality for them, that it helps them to feel refreshed, awake, even if it's only, say, a 2-minute dip, because often it gets so cold that that's about all you can go in for unless you're wearing a wetsuit. And they put aside that time for themselves. So number one is try and make it enjoyable by picking an activity that you like. Okay, so you might have to scour back to your PE days at school. Some people didn't find them enjoyable at all. But what I would say as well is if you're really struggling to come up with something here, then realize that, and I am going to hit you with one stat, because if we're in a sedentary lifestyle, that's actually linked to 35 chronic health conditions. So that's a big reason for doing the following. If you're not big into any of the areas I just mentioned, dancing, swimming, going to the gym, then what you need to do is be aware that, okay, that can be to the detriment of your health. So maybe think of, can I pair my exercise with an activity that I enjoy at least? So go on the treadmill while watching a TV program that you really enjoy. And that's just called task matching. And that's actually a good example of effective multitasking, because a lot of the times multitasking, which I know you've mentioned, is ineffective. But this is matching a mental task with a physical task, which can actually work quite well. So, we're watching our favorite TV program while being on the treadmill, or doing some kind of a yoga mat workout with some stretches. And I know on the Achievers, the Healthy High Achievers, a group that you have, that the last person was talking about yoga and things like that, so people can check that out. You seem to kind of have everything for everyone there in terms of this sphere, Maya. So I'd say that's really big. And then what I can happily go on to is how to actually incorporate this in your day-to-day in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that, how I love how you say that you link that physical activity with a mental activity, right? Because multitasking two mental activities is just, your brain is switching from task to task. It's not really doing two things at the same time, and it burns up a lot of energy, mental energy. So I love that idea of just moving while you're doing something mental. And I just try to do more meetings on just a WhatsApp call, just audio, and then I go outside, I walk around, whatever, just to be moving and not sitting in front of my computer. So I try doing that. But I also love what you say about, it needs to be something you really like doing. Or if you don't like doing it, like the treadmill, let your brain link it to something that you like your favorite series. And that's a really good brain trick you mentioned there, because you're literally tricking your brain into liking that activity because you link it to something that you do like, or you might give yourself a reward afterwards, and then your brain's like, okay, let's do this again, this is fun.
Absolutely. And like, you've just touched on so many things there. So the reward afterwards can be good, and again, it might be something as simple as a coffee, or like, it depends. Like, everyone has a different reward mechanism, or even just noticing how good you feel. That's a reward mechanism in and of itself. And that ties in nicely with how to create a habit out of this. So it's called the 3R habit loop. And it's very, very easy to remember. Okay. So the first thing that we need is a reminder to do a specific routine. Okay. Whether that is a reminder on your phone at, let's say, 11 a.m. and 3 p.m., two typical times that, everyday workers can find they hit a bit of an energy slump, that kind of after lunch and the lead up to lunchtime. So that can be a great time to get a bit of movement in. So that's the first R, is reminder. The second R then is routine. So what routine are you going to follow? And this is where you might need some coaching or a little bit of outside help for this. And I'm happy, Maya, to do it. I know we've got the camera here, so I can bring people through a guided 2-minute stretch in their chairs. We can do that here live. And I'll also supply the link for you in the show notes of the 5-minute routine that I know you did already today. So we'll provide listeners with plenty of options on that. So that's routine. So that's the second R. And then the third R is really important. And you mentioned it. It's the reward. And sometimes the reward is at the end of the week going and getting a latte and a muffin, because, we're human beings. We I personally really don't find these extreme diets where it's a all or nothing to be particularly successful long term. So I encourage people to enjoy their treats to the max and realize we're human, and more the 80-20 rule, where we try and eat good stuff 80% of the time, and you can have those treats 20% of the time, and even then, if you're in that 80-20 category, you're still better off than the vast majority of the population in the developed world. So I would say definitely have a think about that kind of thing. So that's it. So the reward could be that. It could be a latte and a muffin, or very simply just noticing the energy benefits of a little bit of movement, that you've come back to your desk and all of a sudden that task that you were stuck on, you've had a bit of a creative breakthrough because you've given yourself a little break, or you just feel more energetic. For you mentioned taking a call on WhatsApp. And I like that, because actually there's the added tonality benefit when we're more upright. And you can actually hear that in people's voice, and that can come across as being more passionate, more engaging. So there's, oftentimes there's other benefits to these little acts of movement.
That makes me think I should do more of my podcast episodes while standing up, because I'm sitting down now. Are you standing up or sitting down?
Yeah, it's something you could think about. Again, I actually think it's not one or the other. Sometimes it's nice to have a conversation with someone sitting down as well. So it's more just like you're doing for the calls. But again, in terms of even when we're seated, if you want to open up your diaphragm, just make sure you're sitting on your sit bones. So that's one thing I can do before we go through the stretches, is just describe those sit bones that are at the bottom of your bum. I won't get up and show on camera because it's not very elegant, but we can all find them and locate them. They're just at the bottom of our bums, and you can actually scooch around on your seat until you find them 2 sit bones. Okay. And you already notice, Maya, here, I can already notice that you're sitting more upright.
Yeah. Because I was leaning in to talk to you, but I should sit more upright.
Well, exactly. And I mean, again, you're going to adapt it to whatever your activity is, but more often than not, if we're in front of the computer, if we're sitting on those sit bones, we're just going to have a better posture. And sometimes we get into suboptimal posture when we're in what's called the flow state, and that's okay. As long as outside that flow state, we make a little bit of effort to sit more upright or do a little bit of stretching to offset that. Because, you'll, I'm sure, agree with me, the flow state's a beautiful state to get into. And, we can't always get into it if we're trying to do everything perfectly, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
We have to allow these suboptimal postures as well in our day.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, there's so much in this episode already. And I think we're only halfway. Thank you so much, Declan. Just one question. Are you standing up or sitting down right now?
Right now, I'm sitting down. Yeah, I'm sitting down right now. Yeah.
I couldn't tell. And for my podcast listeners, you can always check out this video on YouTube. You can watch us. And actually, you might want to do that now, because let's do like a 2-minute stretching exercise. I didn't know this one was going to be interactive, but I'm loving it. And then after that, I just want to close off this interview with just a couple of tips on how to, if you don't have time for your routine, if a day just explodes and it's extremely busy and life gets chaotic sometimes, a few more tips on how to just move more in your daily life.
Beautiful. Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, so let's start with this routine. So sitting on those sit bones, if you haven't found them yet, stand up, okay? And put your hands to the bottom of your bum and just find those sit bones, locate them, and then sit down again. And you should be more upright, okay? If you still haven't found them, Google it. Google can often be quite helpful for these things. So we're all sitting upright. Yeah, exactly. So we're all sitting upright now. We're just going to very, very simply, what I want you to do is just drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. Love it, Maya. I love that you're joining in. You're a great host.
Yes, loving it. I did your 5-minute energizer this morning, and I love that. So I feel like I have a day of Declan stretching exercises.
Of movement, exactly. So we're just pulling down now slightly, just to add to that stretch. And just go to feel your body's natural limits. And then lastly, on this stretch, turn your chin towards your armpit and hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, beautiful. So let's just slowly bring it to the other side. So left ear towards left shoulder, and just let that stretch for a few seconds. And we're just going to add to that stretch now. And then I just want you to turn that chin in towards the armpit for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so for any yogis on the podcast here and listening, any of the healthy high achievers, what I want to do now is a little kind of seated version of the cat to cow transition. So what we do here, Maya, is we curl our chin down and we roll out our upper back. And then what we do is we push our chest through and open out. And we're just going to do that twice more. So let's breathe in on the way down. Chin tucked. And open out and breathe out. And last one, big breath in. Curl up. And just a big exhale. Okay, beautiful.
I never did this while sitting down. Loved it.
Yeah, it's cool, right? Because it just shows we don't always have to get out of the seat as well. So we can do some stretches just while we're here. So last thing then, Maya, is just want you to warm up your hands. So everyone who's watching to warm up their hands. And then with the kind of heel of your palm, place it on your cheekbone. So just under the eyes on both sides.
I have to take off my glasses here.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Now wrap those fingers around your head. So just wrap them and close your eyes. Okay. So the average office worker is sitting for 9.3 hours a day. And oftentimes the eyes are working during all of those hours by looking at the screen. So this is to give the eyes a break. So how are you feeling?
I was like, what am I stretching here? But now I get it. I love it.
So the eyes are a muscle as well. So that's why it's really nice, like any muscle group, to either engage them or give them a break, because many times the eyes are actually being overworked.
And now the sun is like surprising me when I open open up again.
Yeah. And so what I would say is, so if people have their eyes closed now, you probably notice that you might have had a few speckles at the start that oftentimes they'll die down a little bit. And I just want you to take a couple of deep breaths here and just say to yourself, I have nowhere that I have to be and nothing I have to solve. I give myself permission to relax. A few more deep breaths. Allow those eyes just to relax. And then on the next out breath, I'd like you to just open your eyes and open your palms and rejoin us. And just check in with yourself, see how you feel.
That was a mini meditation right there.
Exactly. And you asked the question, about how can people incorporate this into their busy days? Well, I mean, we just spent 2 minutes there, and you described it as a mini meditation, feeling good. We moved a little bit. And, more often than not, if we're really honest with ourselves, we have 168 hours in a week. So even if we don't look at it as a daily basis, 168 hours, at least 3 of those days we can be getting in some kind of movement. And for those days where you're particularly busy, a micro dose of movement, like what we've just done. So that between 2 and 5 minutes of that, you can use the Energizer link that I'll send that Maya did this morning, and they'll be in the show notes, so you can use what we've just done here. But for sure, on really busy days, you can squeeze that in. The other thing is, if you have a really busy day, sometimes for a lot of people, and I know particularly the people that are in your community, we're all high achievers, we're striving to do good things. And I think sometimes we can try and do too much. So I'd say if there's a day where you don't get your exercise in, sometimes it's a matter of acceptance and allowing yourself to do that and be like, I'm going to get 3 workouts in this week. 3 out of 7 is pretty good, pretty darn good. So well done. Today I took it off, or today I just wasn't feeling well, but I'll eventually catch up. So Again, it depends where you're at. If you're in that more sedentary category, you got to start small and build up your confidence. So start off with these stretches. and and then build your way into it. There's a great book called the Power of Mini Habits, and I just can't remember the gentleman's name who wrote it, but he talks about starting his exercise journey by simply beginning with one push-up, and he could barely do a push-up in his first day, and then he committed to keep doing these push-ups, and eventually that one push-up a day turned into a commitment to do 3 gym sessions a week of 40 minutes. So the small little wins really do help with long-term sustainable exercise, mindfulness, nutrition, actions.
Yeah, that's so key. And I remember learning about habits is also just showing up, creating that habit in your brain. Even when you don't feel like exercising that day, put on your exercising clothes and then change again to your normal clothes. Just that habit of doing it is programming your brain to do it. Then it becomes easier next time. And like this week, I'm trying to get back to my Zumba routine, and I'm actually doing it with my best friend on Zoom. She's in Belgium, so that's the reward right there, right? We're talking about life, we're having fun, and then we're dancing. Yeah. And I was trying to do it by myself the rest of the week. And this week, especially for high achievers, perfectionists, it's just so important to sometimes be kind to yourself. And I mean, I had so much going on this week, so many changes in my life in general, that I just forgive myself for not having the space right now to move. But I did walk around a lot, and I did have many things to organize and arrange in the city center. So in the end, I did get my movement in. So sometimes it's just about reframing, saying, okay, how I didn't do my routine, but did I move? And if I didn't move, okay, why? Okay, it's fine. I just needed a rest, and it's fine to listen to my body, to give my body that rest. So thank you, Declan, for this routine, for these tips. This is like this podcast is a bomb of a million very awesome tips about mini movement, right? And just to close off, is there anything that you want to tell the audience, Healthy High Achievers, on what you're working on, or just the last tip?
Yeah, no, what I would say is just if you want to find out more, you can find me at performancetrainer.com. So, and trainer spelled Treanor, because as it happened, that's my surname. So it was written in the stars I'd end up in this area of health coaching. And you can find me under that on Instagram, or _train to perform on Twitter. So yeah, if you've got any questions as well, following up from what came up today, you can always ask me on Declan at performancetrainer.com, because sometimes people mightn't have grasped something 100%, or they want to kind of find out where to follow up a little bit on it. But other than that, I know, Maya, you do great show notes and summaries and that, so you can provide the links. And all I want to say is a thank you to you, Maya, as well. I think you run a really great community, which I'm part of, the Healthy High Achievers community. I love the concept. I think it's so important. And the whole concept around this idea of creating meaning by, focusing on the meaningful few instead of the trivial many. So congrats to you and all the great work that you're doing.
I love how you framed that. The trivial few, or what was it?
So the meaningful few over the trivial many. And this is an idea from Essentialism by Greg McKeown, which is a great book as well on that whole area of really getting down to what those most important tasks are in terms of your work life and your personal life.
Okay, love that. And thank you for being part of Healthy High Achievers. You share some awesome resources as well on the platform. And it was so nice talking to you today. Thank you for everything you taught us. And I see you next time. Bye.
My pleasure. Bye.
Dear Achievers, I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please subscribe and share with your friends, anyone who needs to hear this. You're super welcome to join us at healthyhighachievers.community as well. See you there.